When Allah created the human being, He did not begin with the limbs, nor did He center our worth around strength, beauty, or intelligence. He placed the true command center somewhere far more hidden, far more fragile, and far more powerful. He created the heart as the place where guidance would settle, not the brain, not the tongue, the heart, because you can know the truth intellectually and still reject it spiritually. You can speak the truth eloquently and still live far from it inwardly. Allah knew that what truly defines a human being is not what they think alone, but what their heart inclines toward, what it loves, what it fears, and what it submits to. This is why the Quran constantly addresses the heart. Belief does not simply enter through information. It enters through humility. Guidance does not arrive because someone is clever. It arrives because the heart is open. There were people who lived at the time of the Prophet letter, FDF, they who heard revelation directly from his lips, who understood every word linguistically, yet their hearts rejected it. And there are people centuries later who barely understand the language, yet when they hear the Quran, something inside them shifts. That is because Allah placed a man in the heart, not the mind alone. The heart is where sincerity lives. Two people can perform the same act, say the same words, stand in the same prayer, but one deed rises to the heavens while the other falls flat. Why? Because Allah looks at what is inside. The heart is the place of intention, and intention transforms ordinary actions into acts of worship. Eating, sleeping, earning, speaking, everything becomes meaningful when the heart is oriented toward Allah. And this is why the heart is also the battlefield. Doubt enters the heart, arrogance settles in the heart. Envy corrodes the heart quietly, while outward actions may still appear righteous. That is why the Prophet FDFA warned us that there is a piece of flesh in the body. If it is sound, the entire body is sound. If it is corrupted, the entire body is corrupted. He was teaching us that reform does not begin with appearances. It begins with the unseen. When Allah made the heart, He made it capable of recognizing truth instinctively. The heart knows when something is wrong, even when the tongue tries to justify it. The heart feels distance from Allah before the body ever stops worship. And the heart feels closeness to Allah before the world ever changes. That is why neglecting the heart is so dangerous. You can be busy with religious activity and still be spiritually empty if the heart is ignored. So the question is not simply, what do I know? Or what do I do? The real question is, what state is my heart in right now? Because everything else follows from there. And if the heart is guided, the rest of the journey becomes possible. When Allah created the heart, He created it with a natural softness, a readiness to feel, to respond, to turn back. The heart was not made harsh by default. It was made receptive, able to tremble at a reminder, to feel guilt after a mistake, to soften in moments of sincerity. That tenderness is a mercy from Allah. It is what allows a person to cry in Dawah, to feel shame after sin, to feel hope after despair. A soft heart is not a weak heart, it is a living heart. But Allah also taught us something deeply unsettling, that this same heart can harden. Not overnight, not all at once, slowly, quietly, layer by layer. Every time a sin is committed without repentance, something changes. Every time truth is heard and ignored, something settles. Every time arrogance is chosen over humility, the heart becomes a little less sensitive. And the danger is that this hardening does not announce itself. Life continues, worship may continue, but the heart no longer reacts the way it once did. The Quran describes hearts that were once alive, but became harder than stone. Why? Because repeated disobedience dulls the soul. At first, a person feels discomfort after sinning. Then they feel justification, then they feel nothing at all. The heart adapts to disobedience the way skin adapts to pressure, by losing sensitivity. And when the heart loses sensitivity, reminders stop penetrating, advice sounds repetitive, Verses feel distant. The heart listens, but it does not receive. This is why Allah warns us not just about sin, but about persistence in sin. It is not the fall that destroys the heart, it is refusing to stand back up. A believer will slip, but their heart will ache. A hardened heart slips and shrugs. That difference is everything. One heart is still alive, the other is slowly sealing itself off. And here is the frightening part. A hardened heart can still look religious on the outside. It can still speak the language of faith. It can still debate, argue, even teach. But inwardly, it no longer feels closeness to Allah. It no longer trembles at accountability. It no longer yearns for the Akhirah. This is why the greatest fear of the righteous was not sin alone, but the loss of a soft heart. Yet Allah, in His mercy, did not leave us without hope. He told us how hearts soften again through remembrance, through humility, through sincere repentance, through sitting with the Quran not as information, but as a conversation. The heart that turns back to Allah, even after being hardened, can be revived. Water can soften stone over time, and remembrance softens hearts the same way. So guard your heart. Pay attention to what no one else can see. If reminders no longer move you, do not ignore that warning. Run back to Allah before the heart becomes too hard to feel the need to run at all. When Allah created the heart, He did not place it in a life of ease and leave it untouched. He designed it to be tested, not as a punishment but as a process of exposure. Because tests do not create what is inside the heart, they reveal it. When life is smooth, the heart can hide its weaknesses. But when pressure comes, when comfort is stripped away, when expectations collapse, the reality of the heart comes to the surface. Every test you face is speaking to your heart. Wealth tests gratitude before it tests spending. Poverty tests patience before it tests survival. Praise tests sincerity before it tests confidence. Criticism tests humility before it tests resilience. Even acts of worship can become tests. Will the heart seek Allah, or will it seek validation through Allah? The same situation can raise one heart and ruin another, because the test is never about the event itself. It is about what the heart does with it. Loss is one of the clearest mirrors. When something you love is taken away, the heart is forced to answer a difficult question. Was my attachment to the gift or to the giver? Hardship exposes whether the heart truly trusts Allah or only turns to Him when things are manageable. In moments of pain, some hearts draw closer, softer, more dependent. Other hearts become bitter, distant, suspicious. The test did not change Allah's nearness, it revealed the heart's orientation, and tests are not always dramatic. Sometimes they are subtle and ongoing. Long periods of ease test whether the heart becomes heedless. Routine worship tests whether the heart remains present or drifts into autopilot. Silence from Dawah tests whether the heart continues to hope or quietly gives up. These slow tests shape the heart over time, often more powerfully than sudden trials. Allah tells us that He will test us with fear and hunger, loss and uncertainty, but He also promises that He is watching how we respond. Not the perfection of our response, but the direction of it. Does the heart turn toward Him, even while confused? Does it speak honestly, even while struggling? A tested heart is not a failed heart. A tested heart is a heart being refined. This is why the believers of the past understood that hardship was not a sign of abandonment. It was often a sign of attention. Allah tests what He values. He puts pressure on what He intends to purify. Just as fire separates impurities from gold, trials separate reliance on Allah from reliance on everything else. So when life tightens and the heart feels squeezed, remember this. Allah is not crushing you, He is revealing you to yourself. And if, in the middle of the test, the heart still turns to Him, still asks, still trusts, still returns, then the test has already done its work. When Allah created the heart, He did not design it to be satisfied by this world, no matter how much of it a person gathers. The heart was made with a longing that no possession, no relationship, no achievement can permanently fill. This restlessness is not a flaw, it is a sign. It is the heart remembering where it truly belongs. People spend their lives trying to silence that ache through success, through love, through distraction, yet it keeps returning, because the heart was not created for dunya. It was created for Allah. This is why a person can have everything they once prayed for and still feel empty. The house becomes familiar, the applause fades, the excitement wears off, and suddenly the heart feels unsettled again. Not because blessings are bad, but because they were never meant to replace the Creator. When the heart tries to live off the creation alone, it starves, even while surrounded by abundance. Allah tells us clearly that hearts find rest in His remembrance. Not momentary relief, not escape, but rest. A deep stillness that no external change can provide. That rest comes when the heart remembers who is in control, who is near, who sees the struggle even when no one else does. The heart relaxes not because problems disappear, but because it is no longer carrying them alone. This is why people can be calm in chaos and anxious in comfort. The difference is not circumstances, it is connection. A heart tied to Allah interprets life differently. Loss becomes meaningful, waiting becomes purposeful, pain becomes temporary. Without that connection, the heart magnifies everything until it feels overwhelming. And remembrance is not just words on the tongue, it is presence. It is when the heart pauses and recognizes Allah in the middle of the day, in the middle of stress, in the middle of temptation. It is when the heart speaks honestly to Allah in Dawah, without performance or polish. It is when the Quran is not rushed through, but allowed to settle. A restless heart will chase comfort everywhere, except where it truly exists. It will blame people, careers, circumstances, even itself. But once the heart turns back to Allah, something shifts. The noise does not disappear, but it loses its power. The heart learns that it was never meant to be self-sufficient. It was meant to depend, and this is the mercy of that restlessness. It pushes the heart home. It reminds us that dunya is a passage, not a destination. That peace is not found by rearranging the world, but by realigning the heart. Because when the heart finally remembers Allah, it stops searching for what it was never meant to find anywhere else. When Allah created the heart, He knew it would break. He knew it would be wounded by regret, scarred by loss, weighed down by guilt. And in His mercy, He did not design the heart to be disposable. He designed it to be healable. No matter how fractured it becomes, no matter how far it drifts, the door to restoration is never sealed. The one who created the heart understands it better than it understands itself. People often assume that a broken heart is a sign of failure. But in reality, a heart that feels broken is often a heart that is still alive. What is truly dangerous is not a heart that aches, but a heart that no longer feels. Pain can drive a person back to Allah, numbness pushes them further away, and Allah, in His wisdom, allows the heart to feel the weight of its choices, so it will seek the one who can lift that weight. This is why Tawbah exists. Repentance is not humiliation, it is healing. It is the heart admitting its weakness and finding strength in returning. No matter how many times the heart has fallen, the act of turning back polishes it. The Prophet F.D.A. taught us that sins leave marks on the heart, but repentance wipes them away. That means damage is not permanent unless the heart refuses treatment. Dawah is another form of healing. When the heart is too heavy to carry its pain alone, it is invited to place that pain before Allah. Not in perfect words, not with eloquence, but with honesty. A heart that speaks to Allah, even in confusion, is already on the path to recovery. Allah does not demand composure from a wounded heart, He invites it to come as it is, and then there is the Quran, not as a book of arguments, but as a medicine. Some verses confront, some comfort, some awaken fear, some restore hope. The heart does not need to understand every word to be affected by it. The Quran reaches places no conversation ever could. It settles what anxiety shakes. It reminds the heart of truths it forgot while drowning in its own thoughts. Healing is rarely instant. Hearts, like bodies, recover in stages. Some scars remain, but scars are not signs of weakness. They are proof of survival. A healed heart is not one that never broke. It is one that broke and returned to Allah instead of turning away. And this is the hope Allah gives us. No heart is too damaged for Him to restore. No past is too heavy for Him to forgive. The only heart that remains broken is the one that refuses to return. Because the one who created the heart is the same one who knows exactly how to heal it. When Allah created the heart, He made it the final measure by which a person will be judged, not appearances, not achievements, not how impressive a life looked from the outside. On the day when everything hidden is brought forward, the heart will speak louder than the tongue ever did. Allah tells us clearly that the day will come when wealth and children will be of no benefit, except for the one who comes to Him with a sound heart. That single condition reframes success entirely. A sound heart does not mean a perfect heart. It does not mean a heart that never struggled, never doubted, never fell. It means a heart that kept returning, a heart that refused to make peace with hypocrisy, a heart that fought its own arrogance, a heart that loved Allah more than it loved being admired by people. On that day, Allah will not ask how much you owned, but what you loved. Not how loudly you spoke, but what you intended. Not how busy you were, but who your heart was busy with. This is why so much of our life is actually preparation for that meeting. Every choice shapes the heart. Every private decision leaves an imprint. The sins no one sees, the good deeds no one applauds, the moments of restraint when temptation was strong. These are all deposits into the heart's final state. We often obsess over how we are perceived, forgetting that the only gaze that ultimately matters is Allah's. A person can spend their entire life building an image and arrive with a hollow heart, and another can live quietly, unnoticed, struggling sincerely, and arrive rich beyond measure. Allah's justice is not fooled by performance. He sees what the heart hid behind actions. He knows whether worship was habit or humility, whether charity was compassion or control, whether knowledge produced submission or pride. This reality is meant to sober us, not paralyze us. It shifts our focus inward. It reminds us that fixing the heart is not a side project. It is the project. You can outrun people, but you cannot outrun that day. You can impress crowds, but you cannot negotiate with truth. When the heart stands before its creator, excuses fall away. Only sincerity remains, and yet this is also a mercy, because Allah did not make salvation dependent on perfection, but on direction. A heart that stumbles but repents, a heart that weakens but remembers, a heart that sins but refuses to justify, that heart, despite its flaws, is alive. And Allah loves a heart that turns to Him more than one that pretends it never needed to. So live with that meeting in mind. Protect what cannot be replaced. Invest in what will last. Because when everything else is stripped away, the only thing you will carry with you is the state of your heart.